Well, welcome to Jamestown, New York, and you are here because of a reunion at St. James. What reunion was this?
Well, good morning, or good afternoon, Greg. It's afternoon now. It's actually still morning in Los Angeles. So I'm happy to be with you today. I came to town because there was a reunion at St. James School. And I have some business to attend to up in Toronto this week. Our annual American Academy of Periodontology meeting is in Toronto. And when I heard about this reunion, I just changed my airline reservation, and I had to come and see friends. I don't want to call them old friends, because that would make me an old friend too. So I came to get reacquainted with my friends, people that I grew up with.
Now talk about growing up. Where did you grow up?
I was born in Jamestown, and I lived here until I graduated from high school. I went to St. James School, and it was taught by the nuns. It was terrific. And went to Jamestown High School. I had a great education there. I mean, it's just like Ozzie and Harriet growing up here in Jamestown. So I played Little League Baseball for Moose up on Willard Street. And that was a great experience for me. So that was spring and summer. And I remember playing All-Stars on baseball. That was interesting and an awful lot of fun, a lot of practice. I played Babe Ruth up on, I think, Baker Street or somewhere up there. And my dad was my coach for that. And it just, I mean, I had great parents, just wonderful.
Well, talk about your mom and dad.
Well, my mom and dad are from western Pennsylvania, south of Pittsburgh. My mom's from Monessen, Pennsylvania. My dad's from Donora. Donora is famous because my dad grew up with Stan Musial. They lived within a couple blocks of one another. They were good friends. Quite often, my dad would have meals at the Musial's home. And that's where my dad developed his interest in baseball. My dad played some semi-pro second base. My mom was from Monessen, Pennsylvania. Okay, well, the plan was, once they got married, they were going to move to Rochester because they heard that a company named Kodak was there. And they were going there seeking employment. So they drove from south of Pittsburgh up through Jamestown, and they spent a night in Jamestown. They looked around, and they thought, this is a great place. So that's how they settled here. They never did go to Rochester. So that's the background of my parents. My dad worked at Steel Partitions, and then he worked at Dahlstrom's. My mom worked at Crescent Tool and then Proto Tool. I was an only child. They were very, very supportive of my education. Every night I did my homework. Every night it was quiet at home until I finished my homework. My mom and dad both worked 2 jobs. My mom sold real estate for, I remember the lady's name, Ellen Seitz.
Okay.
And then my dad fixed up old homes. We bought an old home, we moved to it. He fixed it, I helped. Once it got fixed, we moved. we went from Hazard Street to Prospect Street to another street I can't remember. And then we moved up on the north side and on Sampson Street. And then Van Buren. That was the last. So those were fixer-uppers, and it was just great growing up here. Just wonderful friends, beautiful families. When I was in high school, I was in Alpha Kappa. I think I was the only non-Italian in Alpha Kappa, but they embraced me, and it was great. Well, so I played also in the fall and early winter. I played football. My two early coaches were Les James and Arnie Everett. And it was for the Southside Blue Devils. Yes. And then after Les James and Arnie Everett stepped aside, Joe Albano came in. And he was a manager. And, Joe was bigger than life. Just bigger than life. And we practiced up there in Allen Park, up on those fields in the back. I remember every play that we practiced was designed to be a touchdown, okay? And I was fortunate enough, I played right guard on offense. I played middle linebacker on defense. And I was the punter and the kicker.
Okay.
So, I got enough of playing time. There's a very famous event that happened, I think it was about 1960. So we were undefeated. We got invited to go to Daytona Beach, Florida to play in this tournament. We had this one African-American player on our team. His name was David Howie. Around here, everybody was equal, We all got along. Italians, Swedes. And David Howie was just one of us. Well, I don't know how I got informed of this, but there was some issue that he wasn't supposed to play on that for us when we went down to Daytona Beach. I know there's a video of it, a YouTube of it, and the way it turned out, he did play. And we went down, we had a great time, and we lost that game. I think the score was 7-6.
Absolutely. Great memory.
Was that what the score was?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my God. These guys were very well schooled and practiced and trained, and it was something that we weren't expecting. But anyways, and then I played my sophomore year at JV and high school football, and then I came to the realization that if I was going to amount to anything, I think I'd have to use my brains because I wasn't big enough, I wasn't strong enough. So I really started to hit the books, and I studied really hard, okay? I wasn't at the top of my class, but I did okay. And that's sort of my Jamestown story.
I gotta ask a couple questions.
Sure.
Because I was on the team with you, Tom.
Yes, sir.
You would have been your 13th year, so it's been your last year. And I remember specifically the Tom Kepic story because we got weighed in only once, right before the season, and we got weighed in at the Allen Park Ice Arena. I mean, it was just, you gathered there at the Allen Park Arena. And I remember specifically, because you were bigger than most, and how you came in and weighed in at 125, which was the number. And that's the only time you needed to make weight.
Yes.
And you did. And you were a Goliath to me. You were the Dick Butkus of our Southside team. So, do you have memories of that?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I remember my mom and my dad, especially my dad. He said, "You have to make weight." Boy, I like cheeseburgers, French fries, and milkshakes. And I didn't have those for a while. And boy, Joe Albano, I remember, I never called, it was always Mr. Albano. Remember that?
Sure.
Oh, Mr. Albano. Okay. You're going to make weight, Kepic? You're going to make weight? Oh, I made it.
You did.
But I think by the end of the day, I probably was up another 5 pounds.
I think if I were to guess, you were playing about 145, but you were the middle linebacker. I mean, you were the Butkus. You were just unbelievable. And you couldn't play in the backfield. You had to be 115 pounds, I think, or less. I mean, it was just, there was some digression, but I remember that specifically, Tom, about you. And you're generous to us younger guys just because you're the senior star.
Do you remember one of the referees, Booter Calanio?
Booter Calanio. Yes, I do. He was a, you should use the term, Gumbati with Coach Albano, Joe, and somehow we never had any flags against us. I mean, Joe had Booter in his back.
I had a few flags against me.
Really?
Yeah, Booter said, "Tom, you can't do that. You can't hit him like that." But, you know, we were in there to win.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
We were in there to win.
I mean, I don't remember us really losing. Pete Wilson, Don Abramson, Bob Benson were the coaches. I mean, Joe Albano had this sort of ball of people.
Bob Benson.
Yeah.
And wasn't Dave Melquist on our team?
Yeah, Dave Melquist was on the team, and Dan Massey, and Terry
Yes.
Gill, and
Yes.
a bunch of guys like that. Yeah.
Yes. John Conti was our center.
Yeah.
He moved out to Los Angeles, and I met up with him a few times after that.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah.
Wow, great experience.
And I got to ask about your time at St. James. I've interviewed. I did not go to parochial school, but I was always envious of the high school kids who went early for catechism. They always left early, instead of staying for 7 periods, they left early. Somehow they had special to go to catechism. But how did the nuns treat you? I mean, I know they're pretty strict. You must have a story.
Well, I don't know if I could share all those stories here.
Oh, give me a
But
tidbit.
at the time, they were real disciplinarians.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Everything was a straight and narrow.
Mm-hmm.
But the more discipline, the more we try to get away with things.
Mm-hmm.
And looking back, it was very formative on how I've actually run my life.
Mm-hmm.
So our homework needed to be on time. No talking during class. No walking in and out. Speaking properly, being appreciative, grateful, thankful. All of those sorts of things. And I remember we had parents' night. Parents would come in, and all the nuns gave reviews. As a matter of fact, this past Saturday, the daughter of our third grade teacher was there. Our third grade teacher was named Mrs. O'Hagan, and her daughter showed up.
Okay.
And Carl Caprino, who's a very good friend of mine and is still in town, he was reminding me at the reunion at St. James Church, who's there and everything, and you know, some of the faces looked a little familiar, but I hadn't seen a lot of those people in a number of years.
Yeah, yeah.
So Carl takes me up to this lady, last name O'Hagan, and I introduced myself. I said, you know, your mom was one of the best, most formative teachers that I ever had. So I looked this woman in the face, and I could still see, I could see Mrs. O'Hagan's eyes. They were still the same. Very interesting. And I just had lunch today with one of my early friends from St. James. Her name is Joanne, and her maiden name was Valvo. She's married to Richard, who owns Hope's Windows.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah, so great story with St. James. Just, I mean, it just couldn't be any better. Now, out on the West Coast, I have one son, and he went to parochial school also. And similar, but there were no nuns, all lay people. Great lay people,
Yeah.
but no nuns.
Speaking of quick stories, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask. When David Howie, back to the south side for a second, when you went to Florida, there was some concern about David being treated equally, staying with you guys, maybe getting at the restaurants. Do you remember anything where David was segregated against Dunner? Do you remember any?
I can't remember that. It's just too far back. Yeah. You know, nothing sticks out in my mind. I don't know how that played out.
Yeah, you'll see in the video, and I want to give you a spoiler alert, but we interviewed Carl Calamari, Dan Massey,
Yeah.
and Les James' daughter.
Mm-hmm.
It's really interesting as to the fallout of some of that stuff with Les James, because that was his last year.
Yes.
After that, and I don't know if you know why that happened. A little bit of a mystery, but they decided not to pursue it after that, and that's where Joe Albano came in after that.
Yeah, you know, I remember going down there. I remember the bus ride. I remember stopping at the Daytona Speedway, seeing that, and touring that track. And I remember some nice dinners there. But I just can't remember the David Howie story. It just doesn't click in my mind. You know, whether it was good, bad. I know there was controversy before we left.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I think the Post-Journal was at the bus station taking pictures before we left.
No question, they were there.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
But
So fast forward, you graduate from Jamestown High School in
1967.
1967. I would have been 69, so that's the 2-year difference. And then from there, where did you go?
I went to Canisius College. 67 to 71, I was a biology major. Lived in the dormitory. It was tough. That was a tough school.
Mm-hmm.
That was a tough school. And it was Vietnam going on, and I remember people that couldn't keep their grades up for one reason or another, left school, and before you knew it, they were in the military. Thank God I was able to stay in school and graduate. You know, I studied so hard, they nicknamed the study hall after me. I studied every night, at least until 10 o'clock,
Yeah.
and on weekends also. And I remember people going out to the bars, having a good time. But I stayed in and I studied and I studied and I still study. I was studying this morning. I have an interview coming up in a couple days up in Toronto. But so I graduated from Canisius. The plan was to be a medical doctor. Okay, well, it didn't quite go that way. We had, as our students at Canisius, we had an advisor that sort of tracked us year by year. And it came time to make a decision on what we were going to do or where we were going to go. We're just going to finish college or what. So my mom and dad drove up from Jamestown. We met with my advisor. And my advisor told my parents, you know, your son worked really hard, got good grades. I don't think your son should go to medical school. Oh, I almost lost my mind. It's like, that was what I had been thinking about for high school and 4 years at Canisius College. So my advisor said, I think your son would be better suited for dentistry. Why doesn't your son go and shadow up the street? Because Canisius is actually on Main Street in Buffalo. And the University of Buffalo Dental School was on Main Street.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So my advisor, his name was Dr. Vincent Stouter. I'll never forget him. He said, Tom, why don't you go up there and just shadow? So I did. And so they would let you walk around in the clinic as long as they knew what your intent was. So I got to meet some of the dental students. So I asked them, I said, you know, what's it like here? What's training? What's education? What's it like working on patients? What do you do before you get to patients and so forth and so on? And it seemed like everybody was enjoying what they were doing. So a few weeks later or a month later or whatever, I told Dr. Stouter, I said, I'll pursue that. I'll pursue that. So we made a decision to apply to dental school, okay? I applied to UB. You can say UB here because in Los Angeles, you have to say University at Buffalo.
Yeah.
At Buffalo. Here, it's University Buffalo. It's one word, right? One syllable. I applied for UB in Georgetown and somewhere else, I can't remember. So anyways, I went to UB. You have time to hear this? It was a wonderful experience. Now, there's all these different disciplines in dentistry. There's called operative dentistry, where you fix cavities. There's prosthodontics, where you make bridges. There's removable prosthodontics, where you make partial dentures. Okay, there's oral surgery, which was removal of teeth. And then there was periodontics. Periodontics is where you treat infections of the gums and bone. The faculty in the periodontics department was the most friendliest, at least to me. One day there was an announcement over the loudspeaker while I was in the dental clinic, okay? they wanted volunteers, students to volunteer to work as dental assistants for the faculty. It was very fortuitous in my life. It put me on this track.
Wow.
It put me on this track. Okay? So I volunteered. I thought, well, I'll give it a try. You know? How difficult could that be? Well, being a dental assistant is very difficult because there's so many things that you need. It's not an easy job or easy career. It's very demanding. So Thursday after school and Saturday morning, which ended up being Saturday afternoon, I was one of like 3 students that was a dental assistant for the faculty. So something's going to ring a bell here, okay? So, I mean, I knew all the faculty members' names, but I didn't know how important or nationally or world famous some of these people. There was this one fellow, his name was Sebastian Ciancio.
Oh, we are. No, we are.
Dr. Ciancio, Dr. Nissengard, Dr. Janko. World famous guys. So I was assisting for Dr. Ciancio one day. I mean, very down-to-earth person, but very, very famous. So I'm assisting one day. He goes, "Oh, Tom, where are you from?" I said, Jamestown, New York. So he looks up. He goes, "I'm from Jamestown also." So he goes, "Where'd you go to school?" I said, "Well, I went to Catholic school." "Where?" "I went to St. James." He goes, "Well, I went to St. James also." Oh, what a connection we had. What a connection. Well, he really took me under his wing. And not only when he was doing his procedures, whatever they were, surgeries, non-surgical procedures, he would explain and explain and explain and explain. Well, fast forward, I was dental assistant for 3 years. I mean, I looked forward to every Thursday afternoon and every Saturday. They didn't pay us, but they gave us credit towards graduation.
Yeah.
Well, the plan was to finish dental school, right? Here, my mom and dad, they're working to pay my tuition. My dad at Dahlstrom's, my mom at Proto Tool, my mom selling real estate, my dad fixing houses. So my dad's plan, he was going to buy a building on the corner of Windsor and East 2nd Street.
Yeah.
Okay, it was on the south side of the street. There was a market down there. He said, I'm going to buy that. I'll get it ready for your practice. Okay, this part's really good and this part's very touching. Dr. Ciancio calls me up to his office one day. He goes, "What are you going to do, Tom?" I says, "Well, I'm going to go back to Jamestown. My dad's going to buy this market, fix it up like a dental office." He goes, "You're going to be a periodontist." I said, I can't get into perio grad school. He goes, have you tried? I said, I never had those thoughts, aspirations. I can't do that. He says, you have to apply. I said, my father's going to kill me. I said, the end of the line is when I graduate from dental school. He said, you have to apply, see what happens, and you have to have a discussion with your dad. So I called my dad up. I said, Dad, you have to come to Buffalo. We have to talk. What's wrong now? What's wrong? You know? So I lived off of Main and Englewood, right by the school.
Yeah.
Okay, 36 Englewood. So my mom and dad come up, and I said, Dad, we got to go for a walk. So we walked across Main Street. We walked up on the campus. I said, Dad, you know, one of the teachers here is a specialist in gums. And, you know, I've been that dental assistant for 3 years. And I said, I really like it. I have an understanding of what they do and so forth. And this teacher, this one from Jamestown, he said, I should apply to be a specialist, a periodontist. My dad goes, oh, no more. I said, well, Dad, at least I have to try. I have to try. So I went back to Dr. Ciancio, and I says, well, I had the discussion with my dad. So Ciancio goes, how did it go? I said, well, it sort of went so-so. I could at least apply. So I asked Dr. Ciancio, I says, who would take me? So Ciancio goes, well, you're going to apply to 3 places. Tom, you're going to apply to 3 places. You're going to apply to Boston University? I go, oh, no. You're going to apply to Indiana, and you're going to apply to Creighton. So I applied to all 3. The day the announcements came out, I got 2 phone calls. One from Boston and one from Indiana on the same day. So I was in the school, okay? I was working on patients. I was in my 4th year. Phone call. Mr. Kepic, phone call, come to the office. So I got a call from this fella in Boston. His name is Gerald Kramer. He goes, it's Tom Kepic? Yes, Dr. Gerald Kramer. I mean, Dr. Kramer's like, he goes, we accepted you to come to Boston University. Will you come? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. About an hour later, I get another call from this fellow named O'Leary from Indiana. This is Tom Kepic? Yes. We accepted you at Indiana University. Will you come? Yes. So I ran up the stairs, knocked on the door. By this time, I called him Seb, okay? I said, Seb, guess what? I got accepted to Boston and Indiana. So Seb goes, well, which one did you pick, Kepic? And I said, I picked them both. He goes, you got to call one of them and tell him. So over a few days, Dr. Ciancio and my mom and dad, we all sort of discussed this, and we figured it would be best for me to go to Indiana. I would fit in better with this fellow named O'Leary. I stayed friends forever with the fellow from Boston, Gerald Kramer. I stayed with him until he passed on, and he was very accommodating to me whenever I went to Boston for meetings. So I went to Indiana, and it was close to a 3-year program. It was great. It was great. I almost quit after the first week, though. It was so intense. I'll make this part short because I still have this particular friend in Southern California that I'm very, very close friends with. We started in August, and right after Labor Day, I had it because it was so intense. They only took 5 people out of like 60 or 70 that applied, and I was the youngest. And I remember walking down this long hall in a different part of the building, and I started to cry. And I thought, you know what? I wasted my parents' money. Here I am. I was newly married, and this is just... So I saw this young professor, had a white coat on, his name, and so I knew he was teaching. And see, most of the professors that I had there were the age I am now. I told him, I said, you know, this is just impossible. I said, I made the wrong choice, and I'm going to embarrass myself, my wife, my parents. I just got to go home. He says, look, when they chose you, they knew that they saw something, and you're here for a reason. They picked you for a reason. It changed my whole vision. This fellow's name is Charles Goodacre. We lecture on the same stage together. He's a prostodontist, world famous prostodontist. We've lectured together in India. We've lectured together in Dammam. We lectured in India, in Greater Noida, to this dental association of dental associations. Wow. Okay? Over 1,000 people came for that lecture to hear us speak. And I remember when I'm sorry to go here and there and here and there.
Let's go for it. Yeah.
Okay. So before every lecture, I try to get there at least a day early just to get the feel of the place. Okay? So I go and I actually see the lecture room, and I actually touch the floor of the stage. And I touch the floor, I touch the podium. It's like feeling the pitcher's mound. It's my because I'm the pitcher, okay? So I'm looking, and this place could seat 1,000 people. I thought to myself, oh, who would come to hear me speak? The place started filling up. And in the front comes these like 5 big guys. They were dressed in like these orange and yellow and red gowns, shaved heads. They come from Mongolia.
Oh my gosh.
Mongolia. They're sitting in the front row. Oh, I mean, it was such a great experience. A similar experience in Saudi Arabia with my friend Dr. Goodacre, because, you know, it's great when you go up there and you speak, but when you speak with another person from dentistry who's a specialist like you, who's a different specialist, and we show our own cases. We show from beginning, middle, and end. And we have a backstory going on at the same time, where we're kidding one another while we're lecturing, and the whole audience is buying into it. Well, anyways, so I finished my periodontics program, thank God. I got a teaching position at University of California, San Francisco, and I got an associate position in San Mateo. So I lived in San Francisco for about a year and a half. My ultimate plan, though, was to live at the beach in Southern California, okay? It was Jamestown to California Beach, okay? All right? Not because I didn't love Jamestown, and I still love it as much more as I ever, but there's this thing called seasons here. And you're getting on to your winter season. Well, anyways, so I taught and associated in San Francisco, and then a practice became available for sale in Southern California. So I bought this practice in the city. It's called Upland. It's by Ontario. It's in San Bernardino. It's between Los Angeles and Palm Springs. Okay? The periodontist had passed away. The office hadn't been functioning for about a year. So it was a good price for it. Plus, it was an opportunity to move from Jamestown, Buffalo, Indiana, San Francisco, to Southern California, and I was like 50 miles from my destination, which was Newport Beach. Okay? That was a big problem on my first day in practice. The problem never ended. The problem was I was busy the first day. So I was busy for 46 years.
Good for you.
Yeah. I became part of organized dentistry as soon as I got there. And I worked my way up as an officer to be president of the California Society of Periodontists, which is the largest group of periodontists in the United States. And then I became president of the whole Western United States. It's called the Western Society of Periodontology. It's 14 Western states, 4 Canadian provinces, and Mexico. I was the only one to be president on 2 separate occasions in the 74-year history.
Wow, Tom.
Yeah. And then on an even more academic side, I became board certified. So I was a diplomate of the American board. And I was lucky enough to become a director of the American board. One of the few people from private practice that's a director of the certifying board to certify that the academy is relevant as a specialty. And I served as an examiner for a long, long time, 18 years examining. And what I'm going to do now, this coming week, is I'm going to go in front of this officer nominating committee to run for secretary treasurer of our national organization.
The American Academy of Periodontology?
Yes.
Wow, terrific. You're amazing. Though you did give me a little teaser the other day on the phone about the Los Angeles Dodgers and the O'Malleys, and you got to tell me that.
That's a great story. I was working in my office one day, and we got a phone call. This person needed to come in. He had a dental emergency of his gums, okay? He had just came from Florida where he had some business to attend to that he had no idea what it was. Could I see him? Okay. So sure, we never ended the day waiting for somebody that had an emergency to come the next day. You stay open, you treat the emergencies. It's customer service. It's one-on-one. It's how you deal with people, how you interact with people. So he comes in, and he had a problem, and he was told when he was in a place called Vero Beach, Florida, starting to make sense here, okay, that his tooth had to come out. So he came in and he was expecting me to take his tooth out. This is years later. I still remember which tooth, as a matter of fact. So he comes in and I did this non-surgical procedure and I saved his tooth. Well, I looked at his name. The name looked familiar, and the employer was even more familiar. The employer was called the Los Angeles Dodgers. Okay. Well, he became my patient. His name was Fred Clare. Okay. Great guy. Wonderful personality. Just super nice guy. Would I like to go to a game sometime? Sure. Okay. Would I like to sit in his private box? Sure. Could I bring my little son? Sure. Quite often it was just the three of us there, or whoever was visiting at the time. Okay? All right. Well, a couple things about this. This was a time when chewing tobacco was a hot topic. So Fred goes, Tom, what do you know about chewing tobacco? I said, it could cause mouth cancer, plus high blood pressure, plus all kinds of other things. For sure? Yeah. So I started talking to him about it. He says, the ball players need to hear about this. Would you be able to take time out of your busy schedule to come to Vero Beach and give us a lecture? So I thought to myself, I think I could make that happen.
Yeah, busy schedule.
Yeah, I think I could fit that in. That one, yeah. So I call my dad. I say, hey, Dad, I'm going to Vero Beach. No, he said, you're not going. What are you doing? You don't play baseball anymore. I'm going to give a lecture down there to the ball players. So you got to come. So I invited my mom and dad to come down.
Cool.
Yeah. So I gave a lecture, and it was a requirement. It was on St. Patrick's Day, okay, in about 1986 or 1987. And it was on a Sunday morning, and I vividly remember because the Dodgers had green caps that day.
Okay.
And the Dodgers played the Mets, and there wasn't much going on in sports that day, so the game was nationally televised. So one of the announcers during the game just happened to mention, the Dodgers had a lecture this morning on the harmful effects of smokeless tobacco by Dr. Tom Kepic from Los Angeles.
Wow.
Well, the next day, the phone in Upland from my office was ringing off the hook. Everybody wanted to come to see me. Okay? Well, then I got invites to do Dodger pre-games. That was so cool. So the TV truck would come and set up outside my office with a big dish, bring all the cords in, and they wanted me to do pregame from my dental operatory. So I did that. Then I went to Hollywood, got all make-upped up, sat in the chair. Did Dodger pre-games with, I remember Rick Mundy. Remember Rick Mundy?
Very well.
Remember Mike Sosha?
Mike Sosa, yeah.
Yeah. And I can't remember the other folks, but the Dodger pre-games. And they always would, oh, Dr. Kepic, you know, tell us a little bit about chewing tobacco, you know? And I mean, like, I went and I read all the literature. I read everything. I called every author. I knew everything that there could possibly be about the types of cancer, where the cancer, what it's going to look like in the mouth, and so forth and so on. And just, oh, I got to tell you this. So this, you can't make this up. One day I was on the phone, I was home, and I was talking to Fred Clare. And then my dad calls at the same time. So I said, Fred, hold on. So I said, Dad, I'm on the phone with Fred Clare. They're negotiating with this guy named Kurt Gibson. Remember him?
Very well.
So my dad goes, well, what are they negotiating what the salary is? My dad says, tell Claire to give him the money. So I said, Dad, I'll call you back. So I says, I'm sorry, Fred, it's my dad. So we did whatever, and Fred goes, well, we're negotiating, but Gibson wants, my dad said, give him the money. I don't know how that, okay, but it happened. All right. So the Dodgers get in the playoffs. Okay. So I call my dad, you know. By this time, I had to run at Dodger Stadium. Okay. I had parking spot number 2. Number 1 was this fellow named Vin Scully.
Wow.
So I got to park right next to Vin Scully.
That is big.
Okay. And so I called Fred and I said, you know, my dad's coming out. He said, what tickets do you want? I said, all of them. So I got 2 tickets all the way through.
Wow.
So my dad did not like to fly. So my dad comes out on a train. All right. He had a good time. He says he's sitting there, he's looking out at all the mountains and everything. So he gets off the train in Pomona, okay? So we go to the games, okay? And I think, I know at the end they played Oakland, but I think they played the Mets first. And they beat the Mets, or whoever it was. And then Gibson got hurt his leg. And so our seats were by the Dodger dugout, a little bit towards the outfield. And my son was real little at the time. So it was the 3 of us at the game. Okay? It was such an exciting game. It's such an exciting game. And so the Oakland brings in this pitcher with the suntan and a long hair. Dennis Eckersley. The Eck comes in. Okay? You know, I mean, like, no one is so suave and debonair as the Eck, right? So the Dodgers announce Gibson's coming up to bat. And I'm going, Dad. I said, they're bringing in Gibson. Gibson is like, I mean, he could have come in with a crutch.
Yeah.
I said, Daddy's going to do it. Daddy's going to do it. Oh,
Oh, it's the most telling home run in playoff history, yeah.
one of the greatest experience to be at Dodger Stadium with my son Michael and my dad John.
Fantastic.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, like, you know, it all goes back to Jamestown. It's the discipline that I got for a purpose of a life of giving. The more I gave, the more I got. And it wasn't about getting, it was about giving. It's the discipline that I got from my parents, my relatives, the nuns at Jamestown High School, the teachers, the nuns at St. James School, the teachers at Jamestown High School, the neighbors. Jamestown really, there's this fellow, his writer named Paul George, and he talks about finding your true north. I got my true north from Jamestown.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's anything more to say, Greg.
No, and when one wants to say more or see more, you should see the 2-page biography of accomplishments of Thomas J. Kepic. It's overwhelming, and I'm honored you're here. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure and honor to be with you today, Greg. Thank you.